様こんばんは。本日は LJL2020 スプリングスプリットプレーオフラウンド3の模様をお届けしております。MC のカスリオンです。よろしくお願いいたします。そしてこちらでは引き続きアイズさん、レボルさん、リールベルトさんとのアナリストデスクでお送りしていきます。よろしくお願いいたします。
お願いします。
お願いします。
さあそれではまずはこちら先ほどちょっと出せませんでしたゲームのブレイクダウンの方から確認していきたいと思います。さあこちら先ほどのゲームのブレイクダウンですが、ゴールドディファレンスもすごいグラフになってます。こちらどうですか、レボルさん。
そうですね、かなりアーチャー選手が活躍していたなという印象で、実際その通りダメージが出ている。
As we return right here into the post-game breakdown, we can see gold lead, stiffly in the favor of detonation focus, man. You know, the one thing I do want to draw immediate attention towards is look at the damage graphs, and you see Misfortune leading in damage, and sure, you know, you got a lot of damage out. You were the team fight AD carry that they wanted you to be. But at what cost, especially throughout this series, where so many of those fights were blown wide open the second that Archer went down in them. If you are drafting into the Zoe, you are opting out of having that. You are opting out of a mid laner with the same amount of sustainable damage as a Misfortune. You're saying, okay, the AD carry is going to be the sustained damage. We'll use the Zoe to zone. If that's the case, you need to make sure that Archer is playing that accordingly. You need to know, and Paz is doing the best he can to stay in front of Archer the entire time. How many hooks did Paz eat? How many times did he use his ultimate to make sure that he could keep his team safe and buy Archer as much room as he needs? He was able to accomplish that, but there was just times where Archer was putting himself in danger, it felt like, and just did not have the amount of... No amount of peel will really compensate for poor positioning on his part. And that isn't to flame Archer too hard. He is getting his job done. He is being that AD carry that he needs to be. But in moments like this, where you're seeing what it means to... What you're seeing what it means in the small mistakes that he makes, you need to be able to rein it in a little bit. You need to be able to play with your team, or as a team need to alleviate some of that pressure from him, and possibly could look towards something at maybe drafting an Azir or something of that nature that can kind of have a little bit more sustained damage in these kinds of games. The other thing that sort of stands out to me is the Graves. While it was locked in as the flex pick and does offer a decent jungle matchup into the Trundle, sort of lackluster it felt throughout most of this one. I would have liked to have seen possibly maybe another tank jungler or a more scaling jungler, possibly even a Gragas or something that has a bit of displacement and a bit more effect on the map. Just because while Graves is able to keep pace with the Trundle being able to just be a frontline body harder than the Graves can is sort of important. And ultimately, when it comes down to the later ends, Graves is not able to find a ton of value in a lot of those fights when it's very difficult for him to even step into auto range. Things to think about, of course, for the side of V3 Esports. DFM, however, could also deal with a bit of reining in. There was a couple times throughout that transfer into mid-game and the mid-game itself that they were just looking a little bit too hungry for plays. When they had the advantage, they wanted to press it, but almost kind of put their foot on the gas a little bit too hard and almost hung themselves out to dry with it a bit. There were just a couple times where you're overzealously looking for fights that, sure, you know, you might have the wallet size that you can take fights, but ultimately ones that aren't going to either net a lot or are just too risky to hard engage on. when Archer is starting to build up some of those items, a little bit of lack of respect towards Archer, who ended up almost 100 CS ahead of Varus at some point during that mid game. It was about like a 200, or it was about like around like the 250-ish CS mark. There was 100 gold difference there. And that isn't something you can really look towards, or that isn't something that you can just neglect like DFM tried to, and try to just, you know, brute force past it. Ended up costing their top lane Evi a couple deaths, as well as just not being able to stand up in the front line as long as he needs to, especially without building Warmogs or anything of that nature. The 1 HP bar is the one he's gotten. He needs to make that count. Now, of course, going into this next series, the question will be if DFM decide to go down the same route. Will they go for that same kind of poke style once again? Are you going to look to perfect that kind of strategy? The interesting note was passing over for V3 Esports is that their comp wasn't terrible. They had a good job, they had a good game plan going forward, but it almost felt like, even throughout the mid game, when it wasn't just Archer who was a little bit overzealous, in the early game, their entire team rotating for these Rift Heralds. You know, you lose a couple minion wave spot, you're losing 2 turret plates to the enemy AD, when you're already suffering gold disadvantages in your mid and top lane. What is this Rift Herald really netting you? A couple turret plates, and in the end, they weren't even able to get the charge off. Then you're playing way too aggressively around a Drake that ends up losing you a couple kills and setting you on the back foot path. So for the side of V3 Esports, we of course want to see them start to rein some of that in. While on the side of Detonation Focus Me, possibly just playing a little bit more to the clinical style that we know them for. Don't get overzealous. Do not try and press your advantage past what it actually is. And especially if V3 Esports are putting themselves in deleterious situations, it's going to be where you can take advantage, even without having to take hard engages on fights and force them out. We'll get right into the draft here. DFM now on the red side. Yumi being banned out by V3 Esports. An understandable ban, as Yumi can be quite irritating to play against. V3 Esports going for the Heimerdinger ban. Once again, keeping Seros away from that Heimerdinger. It's a bit of an annoying character to try and push into, especially if V3 Esports want to try and take a team fight into the enemy team. Just the amount of zone control that Seros emits on that Heimer is a bit much. Elise also banned away. I believe Elise has been one of the single most banned champions throughout the spring split. Set also banned away from the side of V3 Esports, and this is where we saw DFM ban the Callista last time. And if the repeat ban phase is undergone again, possibly could be looking at the poke comp, but instead they ban away the Zoe, taking that option away from Ace immediately. Now, this is somewhat of an interesting position because Zoe is, of course, the optimal mid laner to run alongside the poke comp, to run alongside a lethality Varus or things of that nature. Of course, DFM ran it with the Xerath, and it accomplishes some of the same job. Tried and true tradition opts towards the Zoe as Renekton going to be banned away. So DFM have a couple of picks lined up for themselves. They can go down the Aphelios if they want that pickup, or possibly could be looking at a Varus. There it is, as I say it, as that flex opportunity is there, and V3 Esports showing a decent amount of priority towards this Graves. They like the pick, and they're going to lock in the Ornn alongside. So now, DFM, you have a couple picks lined up for yourselves. Most likely, we'll see Jungler being picked up on this R2 pickup, setting their jungle matchup right away, and it will be Trundle returning once more. Steel most likely going to be the one piloting that. And Seros looking at his next pick. I don't believe we will be seeing a Fiddlesticks hit the Rift in this game. Is Vladimir going to be coming in? Seros once again is kind of throwing down with a number of these picks, trying to pad his stats for the amount of mid lane champions he has played under his belt for this spring split. Although the Vladimir is flexible towards a top lane if the Ornn ends up on the top end of the map. But now V3 Esports locking in the Kalista have now kind of entered into this sort of early game play style. Going to see if they can change up the comp to match the play style that they want to have around these early objectives, rotating for these objectives and trying to look for fights around them. Do like to see that on the side of V3 Esports. DFM, however, couple bans immediately start standing out when you see their comp. Taric, of course, one of the commonly run side by side with the Kalista. Set, of course, already banned away by the side of V3 Esports. Can look at a couple other picks. LeBlanc, also a fair ban, has also received a bit of ban attention. We have seen many a game in the especially in the mid-season of this split. We had seen a lot of games get blown wide open due to a couple good LeBlanc plays. DFM banning away TK takes away a safe option for the Varus, and is a pretty good one to take away at that. Of course, you do have the Ren slow that if I am not mistaken, was nerfed on the 10, or was nerfed by this point in the patch. So, understandably, taking that one away. But Galio actually banned away, and that is a support Galio ban specifically. Pairs pretty well with the Kalista ultimate, but Thresh, also a great pairing alongside the Kalista, going to be picked up by V3 here. So DFM have their support and either top or mid, depending on where this Vladimir decides to go. Karma would add to the poke in this bot lane. It looks like that will be the route they go down. Now, Vladimir, of course, doesn't exactly play very well to the poke aspect. Vlad does have to get kind of close if he wants to get involved in the poke, but does kind of help with the Trundle, can kind of stay near him, doing a decent amount of damage, while also staying fairly safe. And it will be the Syndra that ends up locked in here by DFM. Most likely, Seros piloting that one into the mid lane, which means V3 has their last pickup here. What are you going to take into the Syndra? Rumble is a fair option. The equalizer would be a great way to not only deal a lot of damage to the back line, but slow them up so that you can get close enough to them to have this Graves and this Kalista start running amok.
さらにはチーム構成としても、やはりランブルがしっかりと刺さるような、そういった構成は取れてます。ただ一方で、
This is going to be an interesting game to be sure.
スキルであったり、プレイヤーというのが
As V3 Esports have this early to mid game on lock for the most part. Rumble, Graves, and Kalista very good for trying to get out onto the map early, take some advantages, and hopefully move that forward. DFM, however, good scaling between their mid and top lane. The lethality Varus offers great poke for just trying to deter. If one spell lands into a Kalista, her ability to start running through the lines or getting close enough to keep autos going starts to fall off a lot.
そうですね、序盤からプレッシャーを出せるチャンピオンというのは今回エビ選手は
As we look across the comps here, I do like what V3 Esports is going for here with the design of their comp. It's very aggression focused, wants that early game to come out, while on the side of DFM, kind of pulling in a few different directions. Very pokey on the bottom end of the map, with very high bursty mages on the top and mid. The only thing that comes to worry is we saw how often Steel was getting picked apart by Archer. Now while Kalista isn't able to put up the same amount of damage numbers, Steel is now the solo tank on his side. On Trundle, no less. So does have to start worrying about that and how far forward he can step.
なかなかうまくいかなかったそのジャングルミッドのライン、今回はできそうなんじゃないかと。
特にアルティメットを覚えてから、そのイコライザーを覚えたランブルの
Now the other sort of potential here is on the Rumble mid. You will have shoving power on the Syndra a decent amount. The Flame Spitter, great for just shoving in those lanes, moving around the map, which does offer you more vision control potential towards that dragon side, so you can sneak away with that one early. And Kalista will have at least pushing pressure long enough in the early game that the first Drake, if V3 Esports decide to play heavily towards it, should be in their hands. Remains to be seen if they're going to be able to pull it off in the end, though. And the worry sort of becomes V3 having somewhat shaky objective fights in general. You're drafting now into a comp that is going to use those objectives very well to start fights and to, utilize any forced engages from the side of DFM to take early fights and mid-game fights. V3 Esports will need to clean up a bit of their play if they really want to take advantage of that. And if things start to go wrong for them, DFM's comp, if they just start doing too much damage, this Kalista and this Graves are not going to get off the ground enough to really make a difference in this game.
体力をどれだけ保てるかという話もありましたけれども、ただワンフックヒットすればかなり有利取れるマッチアップでもありますよね。そうですね。もともとそのスレッシュ対カルマというマッチアップ自体は、スレッシュの方がフックをかければ、
Though of course,
体力を持っていけるというマッチアップ
sort of play and counterplay to these comps will come from how willing is DFM to pass over some of these objectives? How willing are you to just relinquish some of these? And is V3 Esports going to be able to stress that cutoff point enough?
LJL 2020スプリングスプリットプレイオフラウンド3ゲーム2デトネーションフォーカスミー vs V3 Esportsスタートです。
Alright, starting things up once again. Now, looking across the rune pages, like to start that off wherever you can. The only real one that stands out is Steel, repeat performance on the Phase Rush Trundle. A fine option, as in this kind of a game, PTA is not exactly going to be something you proc very easily. Neither will Conquer, so understandably so. Interesting note is Ace opting into the heal in the mid lane. It's a bit of a different one, but is somewhat understandable. Doesn't want heal, sort of offers a little bit of a move speed bonus, so you can dog people down easier with that Flame Spitter active, but still offers a defensive capabilities into the Syndra R. And then the bot lane, DFM and Gang opting in for a double defensive summoner bot lane. It's going to make V3, Archer, and Reyna have their work cut out for them when it comes to forcing their will on the bot lane, as it were. Possibly going to look for some spells onto Reyna. Good sidestep, good awareness, and does have, of course, the ward in the bush, so a good sidestep there to avoid that. Jungler starting same side of the map, but Boogie immediately pathing towards this bottom side. Might be looking either for an early invade or to give attention to this bot lane. Gang going for an early Q there. Archer not going to be able to capitalize too much damage. Actually ends up getting a bit of damage thrown back into him. And at about half HP, that is not exactly the best position to start this lane. Gang walks forward for another empowered Q. Archer already down to about a third HP. Can burn his health bot for now, but the poke is real in this bot lane, as we'll have to weather this storm for quite some time if he wants to make it out of this lane, but it's just taking so much damage. I don't believe he has biscuits as well, unless he burned it already. But Steel already wandering down. Archer is still level 1. They can look for a dive opportunity. Activates a W. Pillar goes up, but Archer hits that level 2. Looks like DFM are going to back off. Steel might be forcing a little bit too hard, but luckily doesn't take turret aggro, so he's able to walk out of that one to safety. Boogie wanders down there, thinks about scrapping out with Steel, but decides to back away and knows Udupon and Gang with all the priority they could want in the bot lane at the moment. Things are looking up early on for DFM in that bot lane scenario, but seems to be looking up in more than just there, as mid and top both accruing slight CS advantages. And this early on, already about a 500 gold advantage. Of course, V3 Esports will be looking more for the team fight portion of this game, so still a decent amount of time to make that gold back up. Now with his Infernal Drake spawning up in about 30 seconds, Ace has not been able to get a back off yet, but Seros has teleport advantage, which could be an issue for V3 going forward if they want to take a fight, if this Infernal ends up turning into a fight later on. Archer, though, finally finding some time to enjoy lane as tries to dodge out on some of the poke of Udupon and Gang in the spot lane. You can see Graves making his way back down towards the bottom lane here. A gank opportunity would not go amiss. Gang going to walk up, put a pink ward in there. Archer going to dog him down. Death sentence not going to land just yet. Archer uses the Ren to slow him and get away from that one. And good call to go for that as Gang looks for something, looks for a little bit of a re-engage there, but Archer does need to go for the Rend there. If he gets hit by a Mantra Q, that is the difference between life and death in that scenario. Now pink warded off, Boogie has no real gank opportunity, but Ace rotating down here. Boogie will be seen, but Ace will not. They can possibly look for something, but hit the vision cone. Avoiding steal for now, but they did see the Krug, so if they hovered the camera over, they would have actually been able to see there. And Boogie trying to push steal off, both of them somewhat checking to make sure no one's getting dragon. Death sentence lands, Gang goes under turret and actually takes a turret shot off the flay. A great find for Reyna, but Archer's immediately forced to back out of that one. Heal burned. Now Boogie is here to see what he can do. Reyna not going to be able to follow up there. The minion wave needs to be attended to first as Archer finds himself a great first blood. Reyna with a great hook there. Gang possibly not respecting enough or being a bit too worried, but Steel looks like he's going for an all-in on a Boogie. It's a level down, but Ace is going to have trouble trying to get to that one. Stun comes in, the Q lands, here comes the ultimate, but not enough. Ace narrowly going to live out on that one. The heal coming in clutch there. Utilizes the ultimate just to burn out the wave for the most part. Give himself a back opportunity here, but with Archer and Ace both being forced to back, Steel looking at the Drake, but Boogie's going to push them away for now. It's staying still a bit high in HP and Smite still available. Watch this one more time as Gang getting a little bit too ambitious for poke, walks a little bit too wide of the minion wave here, and Reyna finds just a great death sentence there while he's looking for a Mantra Q. The flash comes in, but the turret shot already queued up. So now Boogie going to find himself onto the Infernal Drake. And will be fairly uncontested as it doesn't look like Steel is looking for any opportunities just yet. And an early Infernal in the pocket of V3 is a good sign of things to come. Meanwhile, in the top end of things, Paz doing his best to even up the CS scores in that top lane. Will be a lot of letting Evi hit Q on you over and over again, or neglects to care about most damage he receives. This mid lane, though, is where things are looking looking a bit worse for wear. As Saros, once again, almost a 30 CS lead, has just been really flexing the mid lane dominance here. With almost nothing, with no kills, he's effectively found himself a pretty considerable gold advantage there. But after First Blood goes the way of V3 Esports, allowing Archer to kind of even up that CS score does sort of balance things out and ultimately leaves them even as Boogie going to steal away the blue buff there. First till level 6 is Graves here as V3 Esports repeat performance. They want to move on to this Rift Herald. Starting it up right away. Steel is wandering in here. They will have a Vlad on the flank, but Steel just wandering in by himself. The rest of his team not there. Udapon not even close. Steel ends up just losing his life for almost nothing as now Evi, who was just caught on the wrong end of this DFM, feels insanely disconnected throughout this one, just wandering in one by one. A bit of a throw coming out from DFM, investigating the Rift Herald. Of course, you know they're on it in that scenario, but Udapon is nowhere near that objective. He is just wandering up. He had not even had a chance to cross over mid lane at that point. And then Evi, who's caught out towards the top side, is walking in like they're still looking for a fight. Watch this one more time. A good hook from Reyna drags him in. The ultimates are used and Steel has nowhere to run. When you're the only tank and you're still forced to face check like that, that'll happen. But then Evi is just wandering in like there's going to be a fight there. But the rest of DFM just do not look on the same page for that one.
プレーを見せてはいたんですが、ただちょっと混乱しているように見えますね。デトネーションフォーカス右側が。ちょっとヘラルドどうするんだというところで。
Now DFM will really need to make the most of their farm advantages as losing another 2 kills. And both of them going on to the Rumble and the Callista, kind of putting them up towards their early items. DFM will need to start being nervous. Did have a question there for a moment, but I do believe the infographic on the Infernal Drake is a bit off. Drake will be spawning up. I think we're still about... I think we're just about 2 minutes out now, but remains to be seen as this bot lane here. Steel hovering around here. Mantra Q is a great amount of slow. Reyna will go golden to buy himself some time. Great dodge on the Chain of Corruption. Will Archer be looking for a chase? He has the ultimate on Reyna. If he wants to look for a knock-up, Udabong going very low. Forced to the heal from Gang there. Needed is it as Boogie can utilize the ultimate to finish anything off, but for them now, Udapon staying just outside of that execute range of the ultimate, but is now a bit low, and Archer, summoners available, a great Q onto Udapon, dodges out on the ultimate, but both summoners used by Udapon. He is forced to back away from this wave. A great find from Archer to use the minion wave there for that extra damage. Doesn't quite work out for getting the kill, but does give him a bit of pressure on that side as Evi feeling the Ornn gets knocked up there. Has empowered Q coming around, but it's going to be a little bit there as Paz looking to really make him feel the Ornn advantage on this top side as Evi holds on to the turret plates.
ですからちょっと勝つのが難しい。イグナイトもおそらくかけられていたでしょうし、エビ選手としてはデッドしなかっただけでも御の字というようなダメージトレードですね。
Ocean Drake now spawned up on this bottom side. Little bit unfortunate for the side of V3 Esports is the inverse of the Drake scenario from the last game. Mountain or Cloud will be on the docket for today and aren't the most valuable of souls for the side of V3 Esports. But still, acquiring that soul and just putting the pressure on DFM to contest for it is really what's going to pay dividends, as Boogie just going to start this Drake up immediately. Reyna going to help him out here as Steel looks towards this mid lane, knowing he can't exactly run towards that Drake by himself. Ace does have ultimate available to him, but it will not have the most amount of opportunity for it in this mid lane matchup here. We'll be waiting to use that more for the team fights later to come.
次に重要になってくるのはやはりリフトヘラルドのタイミングでしょうね。1分半後 V3 スポーツとしては間違いなく
Archer taking a little bit of a questionable route there to the minion wave there. Realizes the error of his ways and ends up backing around to the other side. Paz doing what he can to try and finish off this turret. Not going to be able to get it there, but believe he did collect on that last turret plate. Has the opportunity to look at the turret opportunity. Second Rift Herald will be spawning up here in about 50 seconds, and that is going to be where V3 Esports have another opportunity to either knock down this top lane turret or move it around the map to see what you can keep opening up. Udapon, knowing that all is not right in the world to walk up to that minion wave as he stays away for the most part. V3 show themselves out of the bush. Not going to get any free kills on that account, as they will take the back, most likely taking the reset before Herald. V3 are already clearing the vision in preparation. Udapon opting in for a back here as well. Wants to make sure he's around for this Rift Herald, and it looks like DFM are going to posture for a fight around it. The question is really, is that what's going to be as important to DFM? Almost kind of caught in the position where V3 was before, where do you need to be fighting for these objectives? Is this something that really is worth your time and risk investment? Either way remains to be seen, as DFM are going to try and blitz down the Herald here. Actually, it's V3 Esports who end up making the call to back away from it, already sending Archer back towards the bottom side. V3 relinquished the second Herald here for a little bit of bot lane pressure, as Evi chasing Paz away towards the top side. Will pop Ghost to get away from that one. And with no help, but no Rift Herald, top lane will be safe for now, but Archer ends up getting the bot lane turret. Actually, very well played on the macro scale from V3, as now they can look at Saros here. Ultimate used onto Boogie, but the grit will help him keep him alive. The ultimate plus red buff will eventually burn him down. That was Leandrius as well, picking that kill up for Ace there in the mid lane, as top lane turret will go down to Udapon. But I like the play from V3 here. Bait that you're looking up towards the Rift Herald. You have Boogie start clearing at the vision. Ace and Boogie were looking aggressively for that vision, but then immediately put Archer back towards the bottom lane. When you get the rotation out of DFM, you trade a Rift Herald, you get first turret on the bottom side. A bit of a bait and switch there from V3 Esports, net them first turret over to Archer. Unfortunately, it does end up trading them their top lane turret and Rift Herald now in the hands of Steel. But as far as where the gold is going, V3 do get to pick and choose and set it directly onto their Callista carry. You can see Archer already opting into picking up a bit of magic resist, and understandably so, as Evi and Saros both will be rather keen on taking down Callista early on in these fights, as Boogie will try to find his way back to the mid lane here. With Archer and Reyna here, they're going to look for a fight. Ultimate goes in. That is going to be jungler knocked up, dragged in, and dropped down. As Reyna now going to be looking around here. The box will only protect him for so long. As Evi going to get knocked up. Nope, has W available to get out of that one. But a free kill over to V3 Esports. A great catch. Now they can start pressuring down the turret here. Saros showing up into this lane, can possibly look for something, but Mountain Drake is going to be their first point of order. It's V3 baiting the bush here, seeing if they can get anything by anyone walking up where they shouldn't belong, or where they don't belong. V3 Esports going to just start up the Drake and put themselves up to soul point very early on in this series. That's exactly what you want to see. Now, a little bit of disconnect here. Pause off towards the top side as Steel responds. A two-man stun, but nothing they can really do about it other than sending a piercing arrow right through the heart of Boogie. Going to take a decent amount of damage, but going to be able to get it back off and get away from that one as Gango throws the sphere. A bit fearless from Boogie, but he ends up backing in time before the Dark Sphere can land. Archer, Reyna, and Paz here to try and hold off the minion waves for now. Ace is returning as well, and Ultimate is back off of cooldown. He immediately drops it down. Gang forced out to the back end of that fight. But ultimately, no engage there. A little bit of... While recognizing, yes, you do have the ultimate from Ace and you can deter the play immediately, I would almost like to see a little bit of hesitation, as Ornn did have his ultimate coming up very soon after that. So possibly could have looked for a little bit more there, but just deterring the play for now. the reserved posture from V3 just to use the ultimate and just say, okay, we just want to let this situation be done. We want to return to neutral state. Understandably so.
の購入も済ませているので、シンダロのバースト、さらには
And
選手のバースト、ブラッドミアのバーストというところも防げますね。
I do.
さあ、そのじゃあミッドレーン。
I am having a
ミッドのアウタータワーを先に獲得しているのはデトネーションフォーカスミーです。
okay, there we go. The graphic wasn't updated right away. The Ocean Drake was not showing. I thought I was losing my mind for a moment. That I was looking at it. I could have sworn V3 was just putting themselves at this whole point, but we were there. Caster, by the way, as V3 are on soul point and waiting for that next dragon spawn before they get into anything too deep. The nice thing is that Archer should be able to reach that rune dance before then and will help out his team fight ability a lot. Pause, cresting towards that level, probably won't be able to get to the Ornn upgrades in time, but getting close is all that will really matter. It's a great sidestep there from Boogie to dodge out on that one. The pillar going to knock him up, but a good ultimate to back out over the pillar wall is a great ultimate. The Chains of Corruption finding Archer there. Hemoplague might just take him down even after Flash. Reyna going to just use the E to try and blast Saros away, but Boogie's coming in with the damage now. As now, Evi has his turn to run amok through this fight. Pause on the wrong end of everyone. Did end up helping Steel along, but flashes over the wall onto Evi. Ambitious from the top laner, as eventually Boogie now flashing back over the wall. A bit of a disconnect there, but I like the initiative to turn onto Evi before he's able to get away with anything. Paz making the flash over the wall, and Boogie trusting him to go in back for it. Takes down Evi and ultimately evens that one out. Watch this one more time, as it kind of felt like some unfortunate sidesteps ended up making Archer tank the ultimate. Dodges back into it there. The Hemoplague goes down and Archer flashes, but just was already dead to rights. Saros comes in off of the TP, and in the face of Reyna, just too much CC. Boogie still, with the lethality item already completed, does a decent amount of damage. And then eyes go to Paz here as he flashes over the wall. The W goes on to Evi from over the wall. He recognizes, flashes over to get it. And Boogie is there to trust him. He eases over the wall there, gets the Q auto, knocks down Evi. A little bit of a poor teleport from Saros there, but ultimately a very brawly, just kind of wash of a fight on both accounts. Death Sentence narrowly avoiding Evi there, as V3 will try to hold their vision around the Baron side before they begin moving over to this Mountain Drake. They have decent wards. Reyna, 3 in his pocket. Archer going to back and pick himself up a pink ward as well. DFM can trade for the vision around the Baron side for now, but V3 know the objective of choice for them at the moment. Boogie finding Evi there. The Call of the Forge God comes through, but Evi will be able to W that one, so he sends it into the team instead. The W forces away so much, and the equalizer has to be flashed over before Evi is burned down alongside Steel. Now, Saros in a good position to look for a kill opportunity here, as a teleport comes in. Evi's going to be on a great flank here, but Reyna's making the call to look for him. Death Sentence from around the corner. Evi goes very low and eventually goes down. Reyna will pick up that kill there. And a little bit ambitious, Evi is trying to be a monster in these fights and is ending up, that is 2 teleports in a row that Reyna is just stuffing with this Thresh pickup. And now, Paz going to be rooted up here, forces the gang away in the time. Steel now flayed in and burned down. DFM have seemingly are just not on the same page as far as how close can we walk to this comp. And now a free soul given over to V3 Esports. We'll watch this one more time. Starts with Evi, fakes checking Boogie, and Seros looks for a good play here, finds a decent amount of damage, and is playing his ranges effectively. But just watch how many times people are just walking into the loving arms of V3 here. Teleport comes in, and with no hesitation, Evi is rounding the corner with Reckless Abandon right into a death sentence. They knock him down, and then Steel ends up kind of walking just a bit too far forward in the end there, walks into Flay range for no apparent reason, possibly looking for a steal, but is it really even worth it at that point? You have to walk towards the Drake, sure, but you've already lost Evi in that fight. Seros is too far away. He's playing from over the wall. He cannot get to that fight. The disconnect there is the undoing of them all, and in the moments where one of DFM is trying to step up to carry, it just kind of ends up being their own downfall, as now Mountain Soul in possession of V3 Esports is great news for Archer, who wants to be trying to run through, can weather a couple pokes, as now Evi caught out in the open here. Good flay from Reyna to keep him locked in. The red buff will burn him down. Equalizer trying to lock up more, will allow the knock up onto Utapon. The ultimate is good, but the ram is not, doesn't kill Utapon there. Archer will be forced to back away. Good shield comes in, the lifeline being there for him, but pops means that Seros has an opportunity to look for an ultimate onto him. But it looks like for now, V3 will back away, pause, forced to flash over the pillar there before anything goes too terribly wrong. Having used the E, cannot headbutt that one down, as Reyna in position to look for something, finds Gang, who's just, again, Reyna is just hook after hook in this series. Ignite not going to burn him down in the end. Steel and Seros playing forward. Utapon trying to get in range where he can, but Paz is making the call to look for Steel and Seros. Coming over the wall, Boogie has an opportunity here to go forward. Smoke screen down. They're looking for an opportunity. Flashes forward. He will be able to get Seros. Now, will they be able to find Steel as well? That is 2 autos in, but no red buff to keep him slowed up. They will be forced to back away. They can return to the Baron if they want to, with Seros now down. And right now, it just feels like Reyna is doing above and beyond. One more hook onto Karma. Reyna is a monster in this series, as the equalizer will force 3 members of DFM down towards the mid lane. Reyna will eventually fall after all of that. But in the end, what is it costing DFM? V3 will back away from the Baron for now, deterred after enough fighting. MVP of this game is looking like Reyna, finding so many hooks throughout this game. DFM are really needing to learn where they can stand, as Thresh is one by one pulling them into the underworld. Now, Elder Drake's still a decent way off, 2 minutes to that spawn. Will V3 Esports opt into... They can opt into both objectives, really. They have a better objective take. That being said, you do have to be careful when it comes to just tanking up that kind of damage when looking for a key objective like this. V3 going to try and see if they can secure the vision around Baron for now, which would spell out success for them. Is any picks that happen in these vision wars can be game if V3 are able to pick off a member of DFM here. And with every flash, it feels like being burned by Reyna at just random intervals. Anybody who steps out into the wrong is quick to fall to the side of V3, as Boogie looking for an opportunity, seeing if anyone is looking around the Elder Drake area. DFM respecting the lack of vision there. A pillar is going to find 3. A 2-man knock up on the pillar is seldom seen by many a Trundle, but Not one that is heavily capitalized on this. Boogie is staying in the bush there. He is determined to make that play work. DFM just look to try and take the inside track to mid lane here. V3 want to look for a fight here. Interestingly enough, they can just play towards the objective and bide their time, but they want to be in position. That's a large amount of damage over to Archer. The Call of the Forge God comes in. Steel with the knockup, but now that tool is unavailable to them. Reyna looking for something, uses the box just to zone for now. Archer eating another arrow, is getting poked out mercilessly by this comp. Uses the heal to get himself out, but Reyna's going to be the one who falls for their sins. Hemoplague down. That will be Paz falling to the Hemoplague as Evi's chasing him right down. Boogie all in on Aceros, will be able to knock him down. Archer and Ace playing towards the top side, but with 2v4, they are not going to be able to finish that one out. So now Archer, the last remaining member, aside from Boogie, who was able to escape up towards the blue side jungle. And this is not looking good for V3. A bit of a throw there in being overzealous, looking for a fight. You have the position to let DFM come into you. You do not need to be the ones approaching the mid lane. You do not need to be the ones approaching a fight. DFM do not have the damage to burn through a Baron while you're doing the Elder buff. And if they do, are you not just willing to take that trade? We'll watch this one more time. As while fights are just being looked for, Archer takes so much damage. It's not able to walk up to start dealing damage to Steel, as Evi will just all in off of any opportunity. He ends up eating a number of arrows and is just forced out towards an awkward position in this fight, while Reyna kind of gets hung out to dry because of it. The equalizer is just there used to zone, which means you're using the box, you're using equalizer, you're using Call of the Forge God just to cover the mistakes that you're making in looking for this fight. Not a good sign for V3 Esports here, but still in an advantageous situation with the Mountain Drake. They need to be able to compose and look here. Now DFM starting up the Baron, want to force V3 forward. They saw how they played out when V3 are looking for an engage, and they want to recreate the situation. They're not going to clear off the pink ward. They know they can look for something, and the pillar is good onto Ace. He will not have Zhonya's available, so he is going to go down there. Lantern will not pull him to safety in time, and now this is V3 Esports routed towards the top side before Ace is able to get any value. A decent amount of damage onto Steel, but that is not the target you're looking for, as DFM will once again start to look at this Baron. Paz can walk forward here, but with no Call of the Forge God, will have his work cut out for him. Steel going very low. Boogie can look for something here, but over the wall comes Evi onto the top end of this, as Archer eats an ultimate from the Syndra, forced to back away. The stun doesn't land onto him, so he will be safe for now, but Paz will turn there. Archer finding a great QE over the wall there, trying to see if he can dog down onto Saros, but is not going to be able to catch up to him in time. Steel is around the corner, but flashing forward is Archer. He does not have time for the rend. The stun buys too much time, so he won't have the slow opportunity there. Will they wrap around? No, they opt in for the mid turret here. Now, pushing forward, they can look for another turret, while the rest of DFM have to take time to heal. If they're able to get an inhibitor as well, it will open up their Baron opportunity here. Evi looking around for a flank here, as he will be walking dangerously close to the wall. Has to worry about a knockup from Paz, but it looks like he will be able to back out for now. Steel throwing a pillar just to kind of be annoying on his way out, as the rest of V3 will back away. And this is where things sort of are peeled back into the favor of V3 Esports. You've got a mid lane inhibitor. That gives you a little bit of breathing room and gives you a better Baron taking opportunity. The unfortunate side is that V3 Esports has been looking shaky around these objectives. We need to start seeing a call to either take a hard engage or to all in on the objective. There needs to be a call, and it needs to be decisive, because in the moments of just wishy-washiness that V3 Esports kind of have, where they're not sure which way they're floating towards, DFM's poke and Yutapon just slinging arrow after arrow into the lines of V3 is costing them everything. Boogie, as I'm now realizing, has opted into his second Edge of Night. Can't imagine that was what he was going for in this game. I do believe another lethality item might go a bit better suited there, but what's done is done, and he does have it now as they look onto the Baron. Reyna with another hook onto Steel this time, flays him in. The Stone Plate will only buy him so much time and so much HP. Will he be able to get out? It looks like he will, but Evi's left alone in the pit now. He will go down, goes golden, but a Rend will come through at any moment, and Kalista will get that kill. All inning onto Saros. The ultimate comes in, but it is not enough. Mid and top down on the side of DFM. V3 can look for the Baron, but they say no. They believe that they can end the game here. And what a moment it would be to try and deal a swift blow. Reyna looking around here, trying to zone Yutapon off as the rest of his team will push in the mid lane. Ultimate comes in from Yutapon. Hook is good. Lanterns through. Now Archer's onto him, but flashes into Boogie's loving arms. Steel is just trying to run away as the war machine of Ace just keeps a flame spitter going, walking so steadily at Steel as they eventually will knock down the base. V3 Esports have composed, come back strong, and they deal a decisive blow to DFM in taking this game too. Honestly, very well played from the side of V3 Esports. I do like the amount of composure that they had throughout this game. It really goes to show that when you put Archer, when you don't put that much pressure on Archer and you give him a little bit more room to work around, he is shining. He is getting a lot of damage out in these fights. He is navigating them quite well. There's still some things that V3 can polish up, but they're proving themselves the capable team. We know why they got to this round 3. We know why they are now putting themselves up against DFM. And a game like this really exemplifies it and lets DFM know that a win like that game 1 that was costly, a little bit of a back and forth, V3 Esports has it in them to take away a win like that. DFM now need to start being a little bit worried about whether they are the ones who are feeling the pressure too much, sending one member in after the other, the little bits of disconnect, and Reyna popping off during that series. I love to see that kind of thing coming out from V3 Esports. When you see a team like this, who, you could see the nerves racking in that game 1, and an unfortunate loss where you had opportunities and it can burn, it can sting. But V3 Esports came back, they battled hard, and they got a win out of this game. For DFM, some things to consider moving forward is keeping everyone on the same page. It can be a little bit difficult in an online environment, but when you're running a comp with 3 carries like DFM has here and no main tank to really move forward, and honestly not a super reliable amount of engage either, DFM was just kind of struggling with Syndra and Vlad on one page, the Varus Karma on another, and the steal on Trundle, kind of trying to play both fields. It ends up being a little bit detrimental for them overall. Going to take another quick break here, going to go refill my water. I do want to take this time, of course, in the downtime in between to thank again everyone who's tuning in. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. I know I am. And while I personally did call for a DFM 3-1, V3 Esports are making a case to pull this one out. It would be something to watch the leading split team end up going down to the second and third seed. But it remains to be seen. Thank you all again, though, for tuning in. By taking a quick break. Don't go anywhere, as the next game will surely bring the same amount of heat and intensity as this one.